Sir John Monash was born in Melbourne in 1865 and studied engineering, arts and law at Melbourne University. He's best known, I think, for his statement amongst us, which some advice that he gave to a journalist: prepare yourself for your role in the community, for the benefit of others, not just for the benefit of yourself. And I think that's an inspirational statement and objective which is etched in the minds of many Rotarians. Life was not always straightforward for Sir John Monash, although he's one of our most celebrated figures in the country, possibly our most distinguished Australian. And we should remember that he suffered discrimination coming up to the First World War. He suffered from three, what were then significant disadvantages. Firstly, he was of Germanic origin. Secondly, he was Jewish, and there was a strong anti-Jewish feeling at the time. And thirdly, he'd come up not through Sandhurst and Duntroon, through the traditional routes to the leadership. He also suffered some considerable setbacks and ups and downs in his engineering career. One of the greatest occurred within 1 kilometre of where we stand here in Bendigo, when he built up towards getting the biggest contract of his career. He'd successfully built a bridge in Fionsford in Geelong. He built the Wheelers Bridge at Creswick, and he had successfully completed those so that he became in the front line to get this contract for the 8 bridges along the canal in Bendigo. He started the first bridge, King's Bridge. As I say, it's on the edge of Lake Waroona, just near the boat sheds there. Still exists. But he set out to build it with a single arch, and in testing, they were all poised, having completed the bridge, to give it the seal of approval. The mayor was there, all the councillors were there. There were people underneath the bridge with strain gauges and measuring details. And then on came the steamrollers. And one steamroller went successfully over this bridge, but the council reminded Sir John that he had to have 2 steamrollers on the bridge at the same time, 30 tonnes. And he did that, and that was successful. But then they said, no, they have to be back-to-back, these steamrollers, so that we get a higher point load. And what happened? The bridge collapsed. John Monash had to undergo a coroner's inquiry, and it was eventually exonerated, fortunately for him. So it's a history which is now being captured in a cantata, the Sir John Monash Cantata, a project which is underway over this period leading up to our centenary. And without any further ado, I'd like to introduce again David Cram, who is going to perform excerpts using the choir, and Eugene, who we heard earlier on. Can I introduce David Cram?
Thank you. Thank you, President Peter, District Governor Julie, and Rotarians all. I would like to acknowledge my librettist, Kevin O'Flaherty, from the 0808 Committee of the Rotary Club of Melbourne, also the Spirit of Australia Foundation. Kevin came up to me about 8 years ago and said, I want you to write an opera about Monash. I said, let's do it with choirs, because basically we want to enable children and adults of all sorts in Australia to have a history lesson through the arts, through music. And that's why you see here the Bendigo Youth Choir. Monash was born in West Melbourne, in Dudley Street, in fact, but his father, who owned a business in Melbourne, decided to move up to New South Wales to the small town of Jerilderie. So the first item we're going to present to you is a little children's song extolling Jerilderie, and there was a rumour that Ned Kelly used to trade stolen horses and come through Jerilderie, and his father, who owned a horse dealing business as well as a general store, bought a horse from Ned Kelly, and Ned Kelly gave Monash sixpence for holding the horse's head. Please welcome the Bendigo Youth Choir, Val Broad, OAM, Artistic Director.
Thank you, ladies.
You'll enjoy these young ladies later at the conclusion of today's events. In the meantime, it's my very, very great pleasure to introduce to you three choirs who have come together. Our very own Bendigo Chorale under the artistic directorship of Yelena Warszawskaya. And from Melbourne, members of the Melbourne Chamber Choir. I'm their artistic director, and Alan Cook, who will be conducting, is their current conductor and assistant artistic director, and also a member of Dr. Jonathan Welch's The Choir, which is the largest non-audition choir in Victoria. Welcome visitors from Melbourne. Our next item is actually quoting John Monash's dictum, equip yourself for life, not just for yourself, but for the benefit of the community. Welcome, Alan Cook. Thank you, choirs. Thank you, Alan. Just to put this whole project in context, the first part of this choral work which Kevin has designated as 1918, because that's the core and crux of the history lesson. John Monash, his legacy, his life. Kevin and I have been working together. He now lives in Kirra, lucky man, on the Gold Coast, but we converse and we're working on this together. We plan for the whole, at least that part of it which refers to the great achievements of the Australian forces under the command of Sir John on August the 8th, 1918, which really hastened the end of the First World War, to be performed in France, near Villers-Bretonneux or Amiens in that region. There's even an orchestra there. There are schools, there are choirs, near to the anniversary in 2018. We also hope to collaborate with French schools in the area, and I've already been in touch with Rotary clubs. I'll be going to visit the area and witness the Anzac Day celebration in a couple of weeks, rather in April. In the meantime, we performed the very first part of the cantata, which really covers his early life, last May in collaboration with Scotch College. We're going to redress that and look at a final version, which should be performed in Melbourne in 2017 and publishable for all choirs in Australia prior to the performance in France in 2018. So we've heard the Equip Yourself for Life. We're now going to sing a song in honour of all engineers in general, and Sir John Monash in particular. It's called the Engineering Song, and I'd like to welcome back our bass baritone, Eugene Radjon. Thank you. Engineering. Now, the road to engineering led through from Scotch College to Melbourne University. He was a very brilliant student, but he was not a conventional student. So Kevin has devised some lyrics to a sort of a Gilbert and Sullivan parody sort of a song describing Monash's antics through his 10-year period of study, which led to degrees in engineering and a Bachelor of Arts at Melbourne University. Thank you, Eugene and the choirs.
University of Love.